All right, hey, welcome back for another podcast. We are on week 2 of our series, Living at the Crossroads, and so I got Will in studio here with me.
You got me back.
Yeah, living at the crossroads. What does that mean to you?
Living at the crossroads. That's a punchy question, right? I think it's living, being. So for a Christian, it's being present where you're at.
So why describe it as a crossroads? Like what? Because I think I know what you're kind of saying, but I thought about this Sunday as I was listening to you. I'm like, I think sometimes we use those sayings and I think people miss some of it. Yeah,
and even the photo we chose, that Trevor chose, I was like, that's not really the right one. I would have even have maybe chosen a street in Toronto with people. With people, it's where you engage people, right? Because you're at a crossroad. You're embodying, according to Scripture, the kingdom of heaven in you, partially or whatever, right? And yet you're engaging, you're encountering people that aren't, and so you're at a crossroad. If you think of literally in New York, I always think of the crossroads in New York, and you're standing there, me and my family, and there's people you don't know, but you're together at the stoplight, waiting together to cross that road, right? And so we might pass each other, we might walk alongside each other, and it's just sort of this place where you are. And I would say it's a very embodied experience. Like, you know, when I think about where we're headed with all this online stuff, and you know why I have this difficulty with the podcast thing, is the risk is abstracting the crossroad into some other.
Sure it is.
And you can confront each other without actually meeting each other. Right. Or you can take counsel and receive advice or theology from someone 2,000 miles away. Right. And then when the internet becomes the crossroads, it becomes very disembodied. You know, you actually don't know what he actually means, or she, or whatever. But so I think the crossroad is a very present place.
So the idea basically is just where you are and then choosing which direction you're going to cross. Is that kind of where?
Yeah, and it's not even I guess, you know, sometimes it's that is, I can understand the limitation of that metaphor. It's really where you're pressing into, say, a coworker, and you're together all the time. And it isn't even where you're trying to, I'm going to get ahead of myself here, like with my dad.
That's fine.
I think you're going to ask me with my dad.
Yeah.
I think that's one of your questions about how my dad influenced my thinking, even in leadership. I think that was your question.
Right. So I'll just give you the question, then jump into it.
Yeah.
So like you talked about shepherd, and so then you use the two imageries. You used your wife, Annie, and then your dad.
Yeah.
And so then I was just asking about your dad, because you've talked to me often about it, and we've never really dove into it. Like you talk very positively about your dad, which is interesting, because in our context, again, context speaking, there's a lot of people who've struggled with some of the ways of the old colony, and they've struggled with the way some of the church, but then your dad being one of the bishops is really one of your heroes, the way that comes across. And so what does that look like in terms of how was he a shepherd, and how has that kind of shaped you?
Yeah. I think I've told you this before, and it was only in hindsight. I had to do a leadership reflection paper in one of my classes, probably about 8 years ago now. It's been a long time getting my degree or whatever I'm on.
Almost through high school.
Yeah, almost through high school. I got this. So I had to reflect on what shaped me, who were my spiritual shapers, right? And one of them, incidentally, was my boss, who was a drug dealer.
You're gonna want to clarify that a little bit.
I know. So we weren't in the business of drugs. It was a welding shop. But anyway, but my dad, upon reflection, I realized that he never once told us to be a good leader. Like when we left school, you know how sometimes you pack the kids' lunch and you know, as a Christian, go be a good influence, go be a light, go be this, right? Not once do I recall him speaking that language. In fact, he used very little exhortation language. He was just really, really present in the way he modeled. And I would say he really modeled servanthood, followership.
Give me some stories. Because those were the reason I want stories is those words are so like you throw them around.
Well, just the very story of him not ever. I don't remember him saying it. So I'm trying to. Okay, when we came to Canada, we were, in a sense, we were foreigners. And in school, you get bullied, and we did the whole Mexican thing.
Kids are cruel.
Yeah, kids are cruel. Yeah. They're tough, especially in grades 7 and 8. Mm-hmm. Scars there. Yeah. The impression that Dad always left with us is, hey, you guys, this country allowed you in, and so you're the outsiders, and so you need to be grateful to your host, in a sense. Like, that was just what he modeled. That was just sort of the impression he left with us, that you are fortunate that these people, this country, let you in, and so these are your hosts. And so whether you're being treated well or mistreated wasn't really the thing that told you how to respond or how to behave in this country. You just be grateful that you're here, and you put your head down and you work hard and you serve the people that are hosting you, right, no matter what kind of hosts they are. Right? And so you just serve well, you work hard, and you just press through and turn the other cheek. And basically, and he never told us this, but that was just how you win them over.
Right.
And it wasn't even to win them over to any side or anything like that. Right. It's just to win them over to maybe have a conversation with you or whatever. And so I was pretty good at that. I'm not a scrapper.
How was that received in the old colony? And if some of these questions are like going too far,
yeah.
I'm curious, because that, to me at least, the again, because I am Mexican Mennonite, so I can make some of these statements. Mm-hmm. That's not normal.
Well, like, what do you mean?
When you think of, so friends of mine that are OPP in the region would say, especially in some of the areas, the Mennonites take very much advantage of the system. They don't care. They don't want to follow the rules. Yeah. They're not trying to put anything in. Yeah. And again, that's a bit of a generalization, but that was kind of the reputation we had.
Yep, and it's true.
So then hearing that from your dad, I'm like, oh man, that's not at all. And so was that something that he was able to convey well? Was that something that people resisted? Like, do you know? And again, you were younger. Like, I don't know if you know some of these answers. What was that like in a church context?
Yeah, I would say more recently I've realized that about Mennonites, or something has changed in our culture, maybe generationally, where we've adopted very much, I'll say, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, mm-hmm, and we've adopted rights, and I have the right to be. Right. Like, we're very, very bold and very blunt about our positions. We're right, pretty proud people for our humility, really. And no one's going to tell me what to do, right? Yeah. That sort of mindset, right? And in Mexico, from what I remember back in the day, it was pretty free, pretty liberal country to do what you want, and as long as you stay in your colony. And so that's the mindset that you come to this place. I'm trying to think of if my brothers, I better not say too much,
that's okay,
if they were as receptive to that idea, or if they were, because if I look at them now, most of them are in some shape, way or form. They're all followers. They're deacons and pastors and stuff. So whether or not they received that sort of modeling from Dad right away or not, and I didn't even know if that I recognized that that's what was being modeled for me, right, that sort of followership. But really, the whole impression that Dad left with us was go and be a good servant. Like, just go and do your job, do it well, and just, and he wouldn't even have used this language. And so I don't have particular stories. It was just sort of this notion that you are lucky to be here. Yeah. Like, you're fortunate to be in this country.
Can I ask you made a statement a bit ago that, so you only realized this later.
Yeah.
So when you think of your dad as a teenager, because a lot of us, because I'm in that stage where my kids are teenagers. Yeah. And I'm like, I want my kids to think of me the way you think of your dad. But then when you make that statement, I'm like, oh, shoot. So what did you see when you were a teenager? Like, how did that kind of form? Because I think a lot of dads, that's a big stress for them, right? Like, are they getting the message I'm trying to teach them? Are they seeing it?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, the whole idea that Dad just didn't press on us any sort of morality. There wasn't like, just, you need to obey me. There was no hardness about him. There just wasn't. But there was this, and I think all my brothers would probably agree with me, is I did not want to disappoint my dad. And it wasn't because I was afraid of him. It was because I was afraid of falling out of his good graces, right? And so, and that's just the notion, that's just how I would describe my experience growing up, that if I did, was I telling you that I wasn't very good at rebelling?
Yeah, I think you've talked about this. Yeah.
The one story where I got a ticket of certain sorts. I didn't want my dad to find out. And you don't make money. As a 16-year-old, you don't make money. Or you work and then you give your money home so that the family can survive and pay the bills and whatever. And so we had a little bit of money, and so I had to collect it from all my friends to put the cash in an envelope and send the ticket off to the ministry. Well, I had 3 days later, my dad comes down with the ticket. And is very soft, kind-hearted. He just puts it down. He goes, I guess God wanted me to find out about this. I don't know how he worded it. He thought it was funny. Anyway, I had switched the mailing address and the return address.
And so just shipped it back home.
I mailed it right to Dad. Look what I did, Dad. Sorry.
At least you sent the money. Everything was there.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, even coming home, I, in my, whatever, when I was misbehaving, I would rather deal with Mom than Dad. Spank me, punish me.
Interesting.
Yeah, punish me so that in a way you're purified and you're clean again so that you can do it next weekend again. With Dad, it was just you realize you just violated, I would say, a deep bond or a friendship, or, he entrusted you with these sort of freedoms and you violated that. And it wasn't victim. He never victimized the situation. It just was very evident that I know he had, through this, he had very high ideals for himself. And he just tried to embody that, and he did embody that. And so he wasn't perfect, but he really did. Yeah.
So, and again, if some of this gets too personal, just move on. But how did that change your view of God? Or did it? Because I feel like there's so much where we know that our earthly father is not our heavenly father, but good night. It's hard to separate those two.
Yeah.
So did you feel a shift when you became aware of that?
Yeah, that's not a personal question. I think I don't know if I could answer that. In later years, after some of our church crises and a few other losses that I've experienced, I don't know that I've ever struggled with God being good or not.
Did you feel the same pleasing God feeling that you had for your dad, though?
Yeah. And so it's not a fear of the Lord in regards to, I'm gonna experience His wrath. It was more pleasing God so that I remain in the shelter of His love. And so, to me, at least one aspect of God's wrath, is the fear of being outside of His home.
That's good.
And so these are things that I get to choose if I want to stay in the shelter of His home or leave and do my own thing. And yet once I'm doing my own thing, whatever it is that I'm doing, that I've excluded myself from the things He wants to give us.
Right.
And so, but He gives us that choice to leave. And so I would say the fear has always been more being outside. Why would I put myself outside of that?
That's good.
And that's not very clean and precise. Like my life has way more in and out and nuance experiences with God. And
it's just interesting because for me at least, because again, I mean, we've talked lots, but I'm like, how does the spiritual progression go, and how do some of those critical moments shape that? Because I think we have this a hope for it to be cut and dry. Like, I mean, accept Jesus and then we're just good. And yet there's all these little things that keep happening. And so then when I feel like one of those awarenesses, it's kind of like, man, that would really shift things. Like,
yeah. And I would say you're maybe just like a marriage or anything else. Like if you think you're entering into the faith and you've landed or you've hit a plateau, I'm arrived. You will be very, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, surprised and I think maybe my relationship with Dad prepared me for all these sort of shifts and experiences and reshaping my relationship with God and therefore my relationship with other people, right? It's just, it's not a stagnant thing. It just isn't.
Right.
And if you're trying to make it that, it's going to be very difficult faith experience. But it doesn't make it easy, right?
Okay, so I want to jump ahead a little bit. We're going to come back to, I want to talk about the wounded healer later, but I feel like we kind of jumped into this anyway. So I want to talk about the interaction between Peter and Jesus. And there's a couple pieces that I want to hit on, but I think I'd like to start with the separation of friendship and obedience. And if you can expand on that a little bit, and so in terms that we're more familiar with, legalism would be the one side. I don't even know what you call the other side. Like, I don't think there's a good name for it. Like, you know what I mean?
Sentimentality, maybe.
That's way too big. Something a little smaller.
Smaller. Yeah.
Three syllables max.
Yeah, legalism or...
Right, like, I don't know if there's ever been a good word, because I know often they're like, well, you're liberal. I feel like liberal doesn't have that same feeling to it that... I understand what people are trying to say with some of it.
Is it the freedom in Christ thing? I always think about the phrase freedom in Christ. Like, what does that mean to people?
Right.
Like, free for what?
Right. So maybe the two ditches, the one is where you're just all rules, and the other ditch is where you're absolutely no rules, no nothing, like nothing matters, you're going to heaven, you're good to go kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's been, so in our historical culture, again, I understand the Mennonite one better than others just because that's what I am. But we've wrestled back and forth with it. And you're seeing this in a lot of the Mennonite churches. You see through generations where the one generation swings a bit too much towards the rules, and then the next generation tries to go a little bit. And so it's almost this pendulum that kind of goes back and forth.
Law and grace, right? Law and grace.
Right. Yeah. But I felt like there's a deep connection for a lot of us there, because as we follow Jesus, I want to obey the rules. But my goodness, it's hard not to get caught up in just the rules. And I know that's not what it is. And so if you can expand a little bit on some of your thoughts on that and what you've seen, and you can do it. I mean, you've done a lot of study. I don't care which route you take on this. I'm kind of opening up a little bit, but whether you want to do your own personal journey or kind of the journey of leading a church through this or kind of seeing what you've seen, I'll let you decide where you want to take it, and we'll go from there.
Do you ever hear people say, they'll come in on Sunday morning and they won't sing and they'll, out of good intention, say, I'm not singing this morning because I would be lying. That's not how I feel, what the words are. Right. And so I would be dishonoring to myself or to my integrity if I now sing these words that I'm not feeling, maybe I'm not even believing. And so the right thing to do would be to not sing. Right. That's a justification. Right. And I think there's a sincerity there, but I think it's misguided, because the words that you sing, most often than not, are words that you aspire to. This is not where I am. This is what I aspire to, right? And so I think the whole grace, and I had to learn that the long way, that you don't sing what you feel. You sing what you believe, what your confession of faith is, and the high ideal of your relationship. So you sing that because you want to move toward that. Right. And it's not manifesting by some magic notion, and you reshape your mind and your thinking by singing where you want to be. Right? And so I sometimes think that this whole legalism thing gets thrown around too much, where you're removing an opportunity for, and I think it is, I've skipped that that's one of the things. It was too wordy. My message, there was too much there. It was two messages. But this thing where Peter had an opportunity, not just a responsibility that Jesus commissioned him toward, he was going to build the church on this rock, and had nothing to do with Peter's ability, because Jesus restores him. Peter did nothing to restore himself. And so the rock is never a capable person. It's actually a person who is completely incapable. That's because it's all Jesus when we say those things, right? Incapable people that are called to lead, right? What a paradox. That's Jesus. But so Peter betrays Jesus before, and he's been very impetuous and, I'll fight for you. I will never deny you. All this, get out of the boat. Tell me to walk, right? Do. That's Peter. And so there is something good about that Jesus recognizes, and I don't know how he chose Peter, but he fails him horribly, completely, totally, and then he restores him. But it's not only a responsibility, but it's an opportunity, a second chance to do what you said you would do, was give your life for me. right? And so I always think that's a very neat thing. He actually gets a second chance to fulfill his promise that I will lay my life down for you.
Right.
Which is really, because that's Peter's intention. That's his heart, but he failed. And so, he basically permits Peter to die for him, literally. And that's not all of us. So I think the story of John and the story of Peter, and we need to look at each one of these stories very carefully and not make them too normative. Right. Oh, everyone needs to.
No.
And I hope I conveyed that Peter is very unusual, but it is a story about faithfulness.
Okay, let's pause for just a second. I'm going to go back to, so you're talking about when you sing, you're ascribing towards something.
Yeah.
My first thought was, when I say I love you to my wife, if I were to use that same logic there and only say it when I fully love her, I would almost never say it.
Exactly. That's actually a really good observation because, are you an I love you person?
Me?
Do you say it? But no, I ask you the hard question.
I love hearing it. I always tell Josie, I need your words. Tell me.
So that would maybe be one of the downside of things that I picked up from my dad. He wasn't a very wordy guy, except for him preaching or whatever, and he had lots of counsel and wisdom to give. But he wouldn't. I don't remember. He wouldn't say, I love you to mom, but a burning picture I have of my dad is him at the feet of my mom, rubbing her swollen feet with, what is it, Zetum oil?
Zetum oil. Yeah, buddy.
The classic fix all. It's a cure-all.
Mexican medicine.
Yeah. But I would actually like one of my nephews. I have lots of artists to actually, I need to get a picture of my mom and then my dad and then him try to place that image of my dad. That's
kind of like later on in life? Or is that like...
That was as far back as I can remember because mom had different ailments that dad would be. And that was one of his, and just so he'd be there for an hour. It would not be no 5-minute thing, quickly rub her feet, but she'd be on her lazy boy, feet up, swollen, and he'd be on the little stool and getting the oil out and just try to rub and take all the inflammation out of there.
That's cool.
And so... I don't do that for my wife, so I should be saying I love you, but I have a hard time saying. And
Annie needs to get that picture up so we can remind you.
Hey, and so
I just think that's a really neat perspective. Like that struck me. I think so many of the words that we should say are, and again, I don't like it either. Like you're not manifesting something, but in a sense you are. Like you're reminding yourself.
There's something there.
I chose to love you.
Yeah, there's a comment. Yeah, I love you. Yeah, and one of them things is loyalty.
Right.
Like, and so. We actually don't really know what love is when we get married,
right?
And so the reason why there's vows inherent in the I love you is that it's like I'm going to screw up, and so the vow is actually an integral piece to the I love you because the vow says I will fail. Right. It's a confession right from the get go, and so really what love actually is 30 years on. Husband and wife can look at each other and look back and look at faithfulness. Like that's actually love, right? In retrospect. And so you've sort of achieved an ideal and it's way beyond sentimentality.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday and I don't even remember their names. They were worship leaders from Bethel Church. And so I don't know much about Bethel. I haven't followed Bethel much. I know they do a lot of healing stuff. I know there's some of that stuff. But they were talking about the impact of sacrificial worship. And so they were talking about a moment in their life when they had lost a child and they had to show up to sing the next Sunday. And the impact of people going, well, I can't believe you're here, whatever. And they said, well, no, like these are the moments where it's going to hurt, but I want to worship God in this moment. Like I want to declare the things that I know to be true because my emotions are telling me they're not.
Yeah, declaration. That's great. Right? That's actually really good.
And so then it was one of those things that really hit me. And actually, so they were talking. I want to find this message. I'm curious. So their head pastor, Trevor, what's his name? Bill something, right?
Bill Johnson.
Bill Johnson. And so when he lost his wife to cancer, and so a pastor who has preached healing, who has seen healing, who's done all this, and he walked up there and delivered a sermon on that. And still honoring God even when you don't feel like it, and worshiping God even when it hurts. And I'm like, man, that is the stuff that I feel like. And so when you were saying that, I don't know why it's just struck such a chord with me, because I feel like so many Sundays I don't feel like preaching. I'm not convinced I'm good enough to be up on stage, but you go up and you declare what God has given you to the best of your ability.
To the best of your ability,
right? And so I feel like that really struck a chord when you show up on Sunday, the amount of times you show up feeling insecure and everything. But those are the moments where you need to declare. The moments when you feel like you shouldn't be there and you're
preaching
not good
to yourself,
enough,
right?
That's when you, no, God, you are good. I need to remind of that. And I did give my life to you and all that. And so, I mean, that was really good. So, man, thanks for that comment.
Yeah, and it's grounded on the whole Peter-Jesus exchange is grounded, and we sing this on Jesus. I don't know if we sang it that morning, but Jesus' faithfulness despite my unfaithfulness.
Right.
And the whole exchange, there's no, like the whole I love you thing, the cycle, it's kind of like, I think Eugene Peterson writes a little bit different. Do you love me? You know I'm your friend. Do you love me? You know that I'm your friend. Do you love me? Or are you my friend? You know that I'm your friend, right? So that's really how Peterson would write that. And it's like this deep friendship, right? And it's like, except there was like a deep failure. And I just thought even him calling him, I used John's son. There's a gap. The hurt is real.
Right.
Like the wound is real that Peter caused Jesus.
Do you think?
But yeah.
And I don't know how you could possibly know this, but what do you think was going through Peter's head? Because I feel like the first time, so there's two statements, one statement that you made that really stood out to me, and that was that Jesus initiated the forgiveness.
Yeah.
Which was wild.
Yeah.
But then the second one is, I'm often like, was he aware? Like, how long did it take him to get, because we look at that and we're like, oh, there's 3 for 3. Yeah. Oh, easy. Like, how long does some of that, like, do you think he got that?
So,
can I add to that just for a second?
Yeah.
You just got to speak louder because nobody can hear, so.
Sorry. To add to it, like, I've been thinking about what you said. Like, Peter said, like, I'll die for you. And he showed that he was willing to. But he was willing to as long as he had a sword in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
But when he wanted to die for him with a sword in his hand, Jesus was like, you can put that away.
Yeah.
And like the whole lead up to that, you can bring one sword, that's enough. Because Peter's going to need that one sword to come to the place where he's going to want to swing the sword to die for me because he wants to die that way. But then when it comes to him, professing who Jesus is to him, that's not the ground on which he was willing to die.
Yeah.
And yet that was the ground on which the betrayal happened.
Yeah.
And I think there's something interesting to say about, like, I'm willing to die for you in this way, but you're the king and you want me to die for you this other way. And I feel like there's a moment of honesty there at the end when Jesus comes to him and go, like, do you love me? In the two different words of love. And Peter's saying, I'm your friend. Like, I think there's almost like a realization that I wasn't willing to die the way that you asked me to.
So I think it's totally part of the issue, or even part of the nature of us.
Like worship, you guys are talking about worship. Like I can worship when it's okay.
Yep.
But like when it's a sacrifice.
Hey, come sit closer for you, Todd.
Yeah.
Sorry,
this is not going to be.
Well, you asked me to be in peanut gallery.
I know you need.
You're only allowed to ask. You're only allowed to ask questions.
All right. You can make it work.
Yeah.
All right, you can make it work.
Pat, what I was thinking about, even as you were talking about that,
being called Patrick.
Patrick. Now I'm thinking about that farmer guy with the llama. Have you watched that? Anyway, squirrel. Patrick, you need to watch that. We'll edit it in. Yeah. Patrick the llama. To fight for Jesus, if you think about it, to be willing to die for Jesus with a sword in your hand, you end up sharing the glory. Right? Yeah. And it also redefines courage, because I didn't get this. I had to also cut this out of my message. When you think about, so one of the Christmas songs, and the shepherds watched their flock by night. In the nighttime is when the shepherd watches against the dangers. He doesn't have a sword in his hand, he has a staff. What requires more courage? Mm-hmm. Right? And it's like, it's a completely different kind of thing. And I've even, you hear so much that, it's time for us to stand up and fight against culture and all the things that are happening, that we need to fight for Jesus. That whole exchange, everything going back to, it's like, you silly little boys, you really think I need you to fight for me? Like that's the kind of God I am. That
right.
And through the whole Old Testament, there is a repeated, you will not fight for me, I will fight for you.
Right.
Like you little peasants, right?
So
like
even when they go to war, it's not like it's just a bigger army. It's always God that's like, I'll find a way to win this war for you.
Yeah, and it is God who fights and God who conquers and God who enables the victory. And so the whole Gideon, I think that's one of the ones. Mm-hmm. No, I don't need that many. Even less to tell you something. And one of the things that Solomon wasn't allowed to do was gather up an army.
Right. Because then the glory goes all to him.
The glory
and
goes
we start
to him.
Thinking we're the ones.
And this is just such a repeated pattern.
Why doesn't God want to share the glory? And maybe that's a dumb question, but I feel like it's one of those, like you hear these statements.
That's right. You said something quite a while ago, and it was regard of donations, giving donations, that sometimes those who give receive the glory for their generosity.
Right.
You're praising them for their generosity, which we do. We should honor generous people where they're at, because that displays. So when you're sharing the glory, what happens is it actually gets short-circuited. It stops right there. The risk is that it stops there. It's not about God not wanting to give us something. It's that really, ultimately, we can't give to people what only God can give. And so when you cap the glory to us or share it somehow, people will still lean on humans a little too much, maybe.
Okay.
Because what they really need is, and what God really desires is for them to know Him, not just know me.
Right.
Like it isn't enough for people to know me. That ultimately, God desires all people to know Him.
Right.
The source of life, right? And so,
because I just think there's a tension in there, and we're bouncing all over, but that's okay. We got time. When I think of giving God the glory, so I remember years ago, I gave a sermon. This was on our Mexico City mission trip. So we gave a sermon, and it was translated. Daryl Kaler was there. And at the end of it, somebody came up to me and said, "Good job." And I said, "Thank you." And somebody corrected me and said, No, you say, "All glory goes to God." And so I've always wrestled with that, because in my job, Christians seem to have the mindset that it's all God. But then what we do is meaningless. And so when I'm looking at the situation, then people can go, "No, Jesus was going to do it all." No, but Jesus didn't do it all. Jesus actually left and said, "Now you guys go." And so that's why I think it actually really matters to understand this glory piece, to go, giving God all the glory just makes sure that we know who's in charge. That's the way I would look at some of that.
Yep.
Because as soon as I get the glory, I go, "Oh, that was me." Mm-hmm. And it was my thoughtfulness, and it was mine. And so then when I give God the glory for a good sermon, I'm not saying that He wrote the sermon for me. I'm not saying He did all the work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's be honest, I'm following God. So I'm going to give Him the glory, but that doesn't eliminate my responsibility. And so for Peter, I feel like he wrestled with that. He's like, I don't know. And so I guess when you say living at the crossroads, I picture Peter in a lot of ways of going, I don't know what to do with my hands now if I can't have a sword.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to go?
Yeah.
I want this to win. I want to follow you, Jesus. I don't know how the heck to do that.
Good intentions, right?
And so then he gets rid of the sword, but then I feel like that's where the denial came in, because there's a lostness. He's like, what the heck am I supposed to do with a dead king?
Yeah. I'm with you there about the whole, and I've learned to, when people give me praise for something, I just say thank you. I think sometimes there's a risk of artificiality by saying, all glory goes to God. That should be implicit. So again, going back to my dad, it was just evident that he would say thank you. Like he would, I once heard that it's the measure of a man is the ability to receive praise.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah, right. It is hard. Mm-hmm. It is hard to receive praise, because especially if you're a Christian and you're supposed to give all glory, not redirect it, deflect.
Yeah.
But to receive it with humility, because people need earthly models, and we're called to be shepherds. Like we're shepherds, but there is only one high shepherd.
Right.
And so really, what is the role of the shepherd that distinguishes you and me as shepherds from Jesus, the shepherd. And it's just like we're a shepherd, he is the shepherd, right? And so really, and Anita actually, I bounced some ideas off of her about this whole thing about Psalm 23. And I said, what do you think about? I sent her something, and how do you read this? What can you add to this? And she said, Jesus is the host of the table. He sets the table. You just bring him to the table. The role of the shepherd is just to bring them to the table, to the shepherd, who is the host. And he wants, and that's why you can't share the glory, because you'll bring them to the wrong table. You'll bring them to my table.
Do you think Peter's lesson started with the nets, and the sword is just the same lesson? It's just a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, what's in your hand? One day we'll talk about a series about the questions that God asks throughout all of Scripture. It's very interesting, the questions, and we should pay attention whenever Jesus asks a question or when God asks a question. It's very like, what's in your hand? What's in your hand? And
interesting.
What's in your hand? What is in your hand?
Yeah, interesting.
And so, well, what is we call that questions of identity,
right,
or vocation or work, right? And so anyway, there's some really cool questions that repeat throughout Scripture that has something to do with what's your purpose, where are you going, where are you from,
right,
what are you supposed to be doing, who are you?
All right, let's bounce forward a bit. I want to talk about the moment where Jesus says, hey, Peter, this is what you're going to do for me. And then he turns around and goes, well, what about him?
Yeah.
And I just think, and again, I don't want to bring this too much to our current, so I'll just go back to Benny and kind of go, what the heck, God? How do you navigate when it just seems so unfair? Like, how does Jesus look at this guy and just go, you're going to be crucified, but it makes no difference to you what the next guy's going to. How do we live in that? Like, in a practical, because to me, the practicality is, I get to wake up and my kids are healthy. I have a home. I have a good family. Like, there's a lot of those things that I go, man, I just have. I didn't earn them. I didn't, choose who my parents were or where we live, all those, like, there's a lot of those kind of, and then I look at others and I'm like, their whole life was suffering. Their whole life was loneliness. Their whole life was some of those. And so how do you navigate that tension?
How do you reconcile that, eh?
Dude, it's hard.
Yeah, how do you reconcile that? I think it was with Jim and myself. We had a long conversation about this. This is years back now.
That'd be a really good band. If you guys were a boy band.
Yeah, Gemini.
Sorry.
We could sing Squirrel. There really is nothing you can do to explain that. Like, there's nothing reasonable or fair, because we always think about in terms of fairness. Like, that's our framework. And it's good, like justice, fairness. And pushing it off to, well, in eternity, the first will be last will be first, is not, it's flat, right? That's not,
right.
Yeah, it's true. And we should hold that there, that there's something going to be reconciled. So out of that, even that question, because I've asked, we lost our parents fairly early, but really our losses are nothing compared to some others. The only thing the only resolution I could come to is the only way that you can even kind of bring it to some kind of level plane is the one who has. The only thing he can really do to even try to come to that place is to live a life of gratitude. To use it properly, to give thanks and use those gifts, those extras that he has that the other one doesn't, to use them in a way that you are truly grateful that somehow your life in response is proportionate to the things you've been given, that is in a way a long sacrifice. Nothing to take away with Benny or anything like that, but the long sacrifice means now, if I live a life of gratitude, then at some point, as I think about this longer and longer, I really actually have to believe that it's not mine. If it's not mine, then I have to live it with an open hand to share with those in need.
So what does that look like? Because you guys and any of the other business leaders in our community, I mean, you guys have 1 billion people calling. Everybody wants your money. Yeah. Everybody wants from you.
Yeah.
Like, how have you learned to live that out? I know you don't have the 100% answer, but what are some of the things that you picked up?
Yep. The capitalist rules don't apply, because we have some ideas that, well, the only way I want to make sure that I give this financial gift to the right person is one who's ready to receive it and use it wisely. And so we want to measure, we want to audit people, and I don't know if it's that clean. Like, that's one of the things I've been wrestling about. Did I ever tell you about Cornelius Reimer? He was a deacon at the Old Colony.
I know him.
We were going to do in the church here years ago, we were going to do it was a MIA, men's thing, missing in action, except it was men in action, right? And so I had all these cue cards, all these little things, this and that, and we're going to get men together, and we're going to, fix up a car, and then what are we going to do with this car? We want to fix it and give it to a deserving family, a worthy family. Mm-hmm. And so, Cornelius, he knows a lot of needy people in the family, or in the Elmer, right? And so I met him at Johnny's, and I explained to him what we wanted to do. And he said something really profound. He says, maybe the one who you should give it to is not the one who deserves it the most. Mm. In other words, he understood the gospel.
Right.
We didn't deserve this gift. He understood that. And that's all he said. And I'm like, give it to the one who least deserves it. Mm. As oil or hot water poured. What's that passage about turning the other cheek? And you will, as a very powerful means by which you almost embarrass someone with if you think about how good God is to it, it's a little bit embarrassing. Right. It should embarrass us how much we actually have. It should embarrass us. Right. That if these are truly blessings from God and not maybe things that we call blessings that aren't, that's always a tricky thing, right? But I think there is no way to make it fair between John and Peter. I think you have to have a really robust belief in the afterlife, in an earthy one. And I only got that after my mom passed away, because this happened with my mom. And my dad gets all the praise all the time. Oh, you're Bishop Enz's son. Yeah, I also had a mom, right? And then now this only came later. Yep. And I was proud of it, and I am. Yeah. And I received it, and my doors were open for me simply because of what my dad did. Nothing that I did. They're trusting me. It's like, you don't know me. Yeah. Well, I know your dad. And so Marcus is already getting that at the chiropractic office. Oh, you're so-and-so's grandson. Yeah. And so, boom, the door's open. Yeah. Open trust, right? And that's what I mean by an open door. And when you don't have to waste your energy trying to justify bad behaviors of your parents, you can put that energy toward meaningful things. I can't tell you how financially, it's not on any ledger sheet, the impact my dad had on my business, on my profit margins, but it's there.
Right.
It's there in a way that I can just focus on doing my job instead of spending another day trying to justify my dad's bad behavior, using the energy, going home, giving up. Instead I can just focus on doing my business well, because and so that's somehow it benefits me financially. Yeah. I don't know how, and so
it's so funny when you talk about your mom, because Josie always laments the fact that everybody knows her as Albert's wife, and so she has a little cup that says, "Hello, my name's Albert's wife."
I think I like. Yeah, so I wrote a long reflection on my mom about cool. Is her, and I've always wrestled a little bit with Rick Warren's purpose-driven life model, because in the U.S. and in Canada, in our context, a purpose-driven life is the one that amounts to something. How does my mom compete in that? Right. She doesn't.
Right.
And that's probably not what he meant. I wrote, I recently read some. It's like, it was but we always take something good and turn it into compound it to something awesome, right? It's like, unless it amounts to something, like what's a purpose-driven life for someone in Africa? And for us, it's my mom, right? And so for me, anyway, that's always how I've kind of pushed back, not to throw it away, but always here's the alternate kind of model. Right. What's mom's was her life less meaningful than my dad's? Right? And so I think I've worked toward meaning more than purpose. Right. When I try to frame a basic understanding of what all life is, how you value each life, has to be meaningful. Right. Not all of them, actually 95% won't have a big purpose.
Right. Well, but if you look at, and that's one thing that stood out to me, like when you look at the Old Testament, like there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that never get mentioned.
See? Yeah.
Right? Nobody knows them.
I've been thinking about that for a long time. It's like, and does that mean their life isn't worth?
No, they were given a different position. Their position was literally, you were going to be a mom, you're going to be a little business owner, you're going to be a whatever you're going to be.
Yeah, there's very few. And you're right. Among the millions and millions, there's, what do we got? We got a couple dozen.
Yeah. Yeah,
as models.
Few. Right.
And then we make those normative, and then we're always struggling. And we're always struggling to, I'm not measuring up. I'm not measuring up. It's like, no, I appreciate that. That's a good comment.
All right, let's go to, because I think this is kind of the one that every now and again you have the tendency in your way of just saying things that just kind of go, what the heck? Mm-hmm. And so the wounded healer is one of those that you're like, wait a minute, what happened here? And so maybe it's just me because I am a little slow. I feel like me and Peter would connect really well. We're a little bit late to the party, but we're really eager to get going. You know what I mean? Let's go. I'll jump.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the best way to start with this. I want you to expand on a bit. And so maybe expand on why you admire Annie so much. Like what about her? Because most of us husbands love our wives.
Yeah.
But I know your story a little bit more. What is it about that, and how does that connect with the Wounded Healer piece?
Yeah. Yeah, The Wounded Healer, the book by Henri Nouwen, I found later on, and immediately I knew right away what that title meant and who it was for. And the first person I thought it was, and it was my dad as well, but yeah, the way it relates to Annie. So I bought it for her. I wrote a little spiel on it. I'm not a very romantic guy, and so I'll just confess right up front, there's a lot of things I don't do well. But I think every 10 years I'll write her a note, right? Something really rich, right?
Sorry about the last 10 years.
This is good. This should hold you over for 10 years, right? She does not agree with that, and I'm doing better. I'm starting to play Scrabble with her, which is like pulling hair. Because she'll spend 15 minutes on a word. And
that's not right. You need a timer.
No, I know. I need a timer. Yep. Hear that, Annie?
Maybe if you wrote her more notes, she would listen to you.
Maybe if I wrote her more notes, I would find words I could use for my Scrabble. Right. And so, Annie's, she's interesting. Her family is, they have a natural capacity to be open to receive people into their lives. They just do. You just want to go there and you just want to spill your, and if you know Annie at all, you know what I mean, right? She's very transparent. She's learned that you can't be, some of it is you have to cherish your vulnerability, that some people will stomp on it like the pig on, because not that they mean to, but they haven't experienced anything. So they'll just give a glib answer to her pain, right? Something, quote a passage and, God works all things for his good. And it's like, okay, don't share that with that person, right? And it's not their person's fault. They haven't experienced any of these things. And so, but I don't know what in particular you want me to talk about Annie. When I met her dad was dying. I didn't know that, from cancer. So that was 93, 94, 96. She's going to...
In the 90s, back when...
In the 90s.
Back when country was good.
The other century, right? And so she lost her dad early. And I just realized this morning, I knew you were going to ask me that question. So I did the math. She would have been 21.
Oh, wow.
And so that's my kid's age. So Annie lost her dad first, really early on. My kids are already, Sam's 25, I think. And then she lost her mom 6 years later, both to cancer. So, and while we had Andrea, and I think she was pregnant with Marcus. And so our kids already have something that Annie didn't have, right? Two parents, and then her mom remarried, and he ended up dying by suicide.
Oh, wow.
Annie's stepdad, and so that was his second loss. Both his wives died by cancer. And so that was 2001. So 93, 98, 2001, she lost three parents. And it was Judy Cron, John and Judy John, that came and brought us some kind of dessert or whatever it was when my dad died in 2003. And she said, "You guys are orphaned." something like that. I'm like, I had never thought about that, like that. We hadn't thought about us being orphaned. My mom was still alive, but she was quite sick. But I had never, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, Annie's orphaned. Little orphan Annie. And so, so she lost 3 parents very early. And she, in many ways, I don't know if she was the oldest. I don't know if you would call her the oldest. She took a lot of responsibility. So did the other ones. I don't want to split too much. But they really took care of themselves. And to this day, they really take care of one another. They're very loving, very close, very easy to hug, very protective of one another to a fault. And I call them out on it sometimes, like, you can't just whatever, right? But she'll be okay with me saying that. And somehow she has the capacity to be the place where people go to with their hurts. And she just has a very mother bear toughness to her. And so she can't watch. I remember one time, and she'll embarrass us routinely, at a soccer, BMO soccer field. Yep. There was a couple of kids. One kid was bullying another one, and he wouldn't stop. We're watching soccer. I'm there to watch Sam, right? And I already see that Annie's looking over. I'm like, just, stay in your lane, sister. Her lane is to go over there and tell this big dude to stop bullying the other kid. Did you not hear? He's told you 3 times to stop. Right. And the kid just kind of like, what's this little 5'3" little, right? And he stopped, and Annie walks back and continues watching the game. That's Annie, right? And so, and there's stories like that, one after another, walking with people that you and I would be very uncomfortable walking with, just, for whatever reason. And with that, and so she has the capacity to bring healing, in some measure, but she's wounded, but she's not a victim. Every once in a while, she'll admit that she goes down, she descends into some, experience of loss. So we're grandparents now, so you experience it all over again, right? That, oh, this is what my mom's missing now, this next generation. And so the loss comes again. And it's a new loss because you didn't know that you also lost that part of the relationship. And so loss is never goes away. But she just doesn't let it break her, I guess. And on the flip side of that, she is silly. She's just embarrassingly happy, loves any opportunity to get dressed up, to go. And so in the image that I was trying to convey, that thing, taking the image of the child and the image of the shepherd, and is it possible for both of them to be within one body? And Annie really embodies that. She's okay with embarrassing us and the kids and whatever, and doing her things, and she'll go off and I don't go because this is not my world, and so she goes to weird places, and she'll hang out at the bar where her dad's playing his rock and roll thing, and just be there in the midst. And she doesn't drink. She doesn't. She's never liked alcohol, and she's just there in the throes of the chaos, of the filth, the swearing, everything, and it kind of like she sees everyone, right? And she sees that, why is that guy acting that way? Why are all these people? And she just sees broken people. That's what she sees, right? And so, and that's what wears her down when she comes home. She's like exhausted, and like maybe you shouldn't have gone, right? Well, it's because she sees behind all of this drinking and shenanigans and carrying on that there's wounded people there. She just
So as a husband, and I don't know if you can answer this, but how do you get there? Because I think it's kind of like that. No, give me a second. Okay. It's kind of like everybody has a dream of who they want to be as a follower of Jesus. If this were to happen, I want to respond this way, right? We've talked a lot about Anita dying with as good as a human being could ever die. Yep. We all want that.
Yeah.
And so then when I hear Annie, I'm like, man, I haven't experienced what she's experienced. I might still, right? I still got lots of life to live. But what did you see in that journey? What are some of the things that you feel like, how does she restore herself? How does she get to a place where when she is in the depths, because I feel like that's where a lot of us get lost. You get lost in the cynicism, you get lost in the depression, you get lost in some of that, and you feel like you can't really climb yourself out. Mm-hmm. Are there things that, I know she would probably answer it different than you would answer it, but are there things that you've seen that you're kind of like, no, this is what she does, and if she weren't to do that, I don't know if she'd be who she is?
Yeah, I think she has a proper perspective about the role of experts. Experts being therapists or counselors or whatever. And it's not that they're not needed, but they are really peripheral resources that really she needs. And she got that with her sisters, just good, deep friendships, people who would just sit in the ashes with her. The role, and I would say the role of the shepherd is so unique, and I didn't get that on Sunday. I didn't get to that. The role of the shepherd is so unique from all other types of experts and influencers and all these people that we give to as our primary caregivers. Right. And I think she just always had this, she's very earthy, very grounded. She's had good sibling relationships. I think, so that's one of them. And then just the church here with the friendships that she had, whether it's Anne or Mary and just sort of walking with those and just being very vulnerable and them just not having answers for her, but just being present for her. Right. And so I would say those are the two wisdoms that she has. Being vulnerable. She has an easy way of being vulnerable. And that comes, so it's a little bit hereditary. Her mom was like that. Right. Yep. And so some of it's going to be harder for us.
Sure it is.
That's natural to her. Right. But the other thing I think she would tell you is that, and she's told me this, is that there's key moments in her life where I told her to buck up. And I don't even remember doing it. One of them was when her dad died or whatever. I had said something, or maybe when her dad was dying and he wasn't going to see our wedding, I think. And I had said, and she remembers that, and she'll bring that up pretty regularly, like where I had to just tell her to shape up, like stop. Very key. So there's that whole maybe tough love or the obedient where you can't wallow in the feelings of things.
Right.
And so I would say that she would probably tell you that hearing truth in timely ways from someone you trust. Right? Because you can hear truth. There's lots of truth out there. A lot of people willing to spew truth at you over from a distance, from arm's length, give you advice, but unwilling to enter into your pain. But there's lots of advice, right? And so
I think that's really important because I feel like our culture right now is all about entering into pain, but then we don't ever speak any truth in there.
Yeah.
I'm willing to sit here with you, but I'm not going to speak anything that could possibly
hurt you more And
I feel like that's a tough tension.
Yeah, and I think you only learn by experience. I've said things that, okay, I shouldn't have said that in this time. It was the right thing to say, but the wrong time, right? Timothy, in 1 Timothy, I think somewhere there's a passage that talks about truth. Telling the truth isn't just content, it is content. You want it to say the right thing, but it's also intent. Like, what's your intent with this truth? Right? And then context is the other thing. When do you tell this truth?
Right.
Going back to Peter, I think it was something that Pat was asking, or we were talking about. Patrick. This was the third time that that Peter had been sitting with Jesus. Wouldn't it have been awkward the first two times? So he had 2 meals with Peter and the rest of the disciples, and I'm sure. Do you think they were sitting together?
There's an awkwardness,
right?
Hey,
right. And so I couldn't get there because I didn't have time. But it was the third. So some things take time, right? Some things take time, and so this is 60 miles away. That was the other point that I made. But it would have been a week later, maybe longer yet. Right. There would have been time for Peter to sit in his shame, and for people that are hurting, you don't want them to sit in their shame. But Peter was hurting, but there's a particular kind of shame that's healthy. Like, it's not shame on you. It's more like to be able to sit in deep disappointment.
Right.
And not just, and I would say probably both Annie and I are sometimes too quick to forgive people. Like, because we're very easily to, but we don't allow them to really process.
Right.
And so I've been told this, like, well, And even now, like in reconciliation skills, one of the things that they'll tell you is, don't ask for forgiveness. Just offer an apology and allow them the space and time to decide when to forgive.
Right.
Because if you ask them to forgive you, they'll be put on the spot. Right. Well, I'm not very righteous if I say no, because they'll throw a passage like 7 times 70. That whole 7 times 70 tells you that it's a process. That's what it means. It's not how many times. You're not supposed to count. You're supposed to say that this is a process, right? Depending on the wound.
Josie told me I was pretty close to the 490. So I was getting nervous.
That's it. I'm almost done, right? I've used up. But I sat with that for a while, like the fact that, so there's 2 dinners he had. He walks into the locker room, and the first 2 times, it must have been very awkward.
Yeah.
And Peter must have felt the awkwardness. Did Jesus have the capacity to feel awkward? But he knew what he was doing. Like he didn't do it the first time.
Right.
So he made it right with the whole people, with all the disciples. And then again, the week later, same room, same story. This time Thomas was there, and then out on the shore. And he did it in front of the other people, this restoration. He does it in front of the other people, the other disciples, that he restores Peter in front of them. And then he takes him aside and tells him you're going to die for me, right?
All right. So, we're going to wrap that up for today. There's a lot of places I could go. I think my closing thought for people to think about is we're always, when you talk about forgiveness, we're always like, we'll wait for them to be sorry.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, no, there was a waiting. And that's why I'm curious about, but anyways, there was a waiting, but then he initiated. He says, but then he didn't just say, I forgive you. He was intentional with it. And I think there's some incredible wisdom in terms of how we navigate some of this.
Yeah.
But anyways, hey, this has been rich. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the Sunday. And then we'll be back at our next week.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a great week.